With the recent announcement that Nintendo wasn't planning a virtual console for the Nintendo Switch, it's fair to say it was met with some disappointment. However, does it really matter? In case you've been living under a rock, the Nintendo Switch has been hacked. I made a video about it last week explaining the exploit, how to run it on your device, how to set up a development environment, as well as show you my port of Cannonball, the Outrun engine, to the Nintendo Switch. And if you wanted to enjoy that port, I've completed it and it's available in the links below.
Get ready?
So this week I spent the time to look at the existing homebrew and emulators that are currently available for the Nintendo Switch and see if it actually fills the void of the Virtual Console. Please note, I'm running a 5.0.2 firmware and all these emulators and homebrew worked fine for me, so if you are on a lower firmware, your mileage may vary. VBA Next is a Game Boy Advance emulator that has ties back to the original Game Boy Advance emulator called VBA from 2004 by a developer known as Forgotten. This is the LibRetro Switch port and it's in very early development, but it plays games very well, with autosaves and save states. This is a good emulator that has a lot of polish, and of course, because it's the VBA Next codebase, it comes complete with many optimizations out of the box. There are sometimes slowdowns here and there, and the audio can get choppy at times, but if you want to play Pokemon on your Switch while you wait for the Switch version, then this is just the ticket. When I think Virtual Console, I think Game Boy Advance, so this emulator is a must download for anyone. SNES 90X 2010 is a Super Nintendo emulator that's based on LibRetro. This port only came out a few days ago but has a lot of promise. It plays everything at full speed, but sadly I can't find any easy way of stretching the screen to a more appropriate 4:3 aspect ratio. It supports Super Effects and other custom chips as you would expect in an established emulator like this, and compatibility is excellent. The sound can get a little noisy at times, and I'm not sure why that is. Right after a ROM loads, for example, there is a scratchy audio sound that plays, but once the game proper starts, that sound goes away. There is also no analog stick support, so you are stuck with the D-pad for control, but again, this emulator is really early in development, and I'm sure progress will be made in the coming weeks. And once again, if we're talking about a virtual console, a Super Nintendo emulator is a must-have, and with just a little more polish, this emulator will become one of the best that the Nintendo Switch has to offer. Duke Nukem 3D, the legendary 3D first-person shooter from 1996, gets a port to the Nintendo Switch. Based on the eDuke 32 engine, this port is fantastic. It supports the Switch widescreen mode and uses a Halo-style control scheme that feels both great on the Joy-Cons and a Pro Controller. Drop in the Nintendo Switch in your dock and it looks great on a big screen as well. If you are a fan of early FPS games, then this is a must download. One thing I should mention, however, is playing a game in dock mode seems to crash the Switch with this error message. I can only play for a couple of minutes and it crashes every single time, but if you are in handheld mode, you can play all day long, battery life permitting of course. Scum VM, the interpreter virtual machine that originally allows you to play old LucasArts Scum engine games. This Switch port is the latest 2.1 version, which supports many more games, including 32-bit Sierra games. Every system needs a port of ScumVM, and the Nintendo Switch is no exception. This is a solid port of the LucasArts interpreter, plays all the games I remember very well as expected. There are some issues with the sound however. For example, in Full Throttle, it seems to lose the background audio at times, and there is some stuttering with the sound on occasion, but it's really not enough to bother you. ScumVM on the Switch is another very welcome port to the system, and well worth checking out.
I fixed your door. It was sticky.
Look, I don't want no trouble. Just leave me out of this mess.
So let's talk about the meaty stuff, arcade emulation. Final Burn Alpha has its own port to the Nintendo Switch known as PFBA. This is a very good port of FBA that runs at very good speeds. Now normally, when I want to test performance, I try three things. First, I try a CPS 3 game, such as Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Third Strike runs very well. I didn't notice any drop frames at all. Next up, I try a few IGS PGM games such as Demon Front and Esp Galuda. IGS PGM has trouble on slower systems, and once again, PFBA and the Nintendo Switch, they handle it very, very easily. Good stuff. R-Type Leo is another game that's notorious for slowdown and stutter. On a standard Xbox, for example, it runs at about 50% speed, mainly due to the NEC V30 chip and the IREM M32 arcade architecture, and as you can see here, there's no issues running it on the Nintendo Switch. So yes, overall I'm very happy with the performance of this emulator. As well as this, you would expect this emulator to run everything that's thrown at it. Capcom CPS 1, CPS 2, Neo Geo, Konami arcade games like Ninja Turtles. It even has Sega Genesis, Sega Game Gear, Master System and PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 support built into the emulator. One thing that it does not support, however, is midway games such as Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam. But hopefully we will see a port of LibRetro MAME for the Switch, and that will take care of that. So back to FBA, I love the fact that this emulator supports screen rotation as well. Shoot 'em ups in vertical mode look fantastic. With the addition of Sega Genesis, PC Engine and other console-based ROMs supported, on top of the 2,000 or so arcade games that this emulator supports, this is probably the premier emulator available for the Nintendo Switch today. It also supports save states and many more features, so definitely check this one out. I did mention last week that I had a secret port that I was working on, and I'm ready to reveal it today. Even though the cat is a little bit out of the bag already, I released the port of Postal to the Nintendo Switch. Now, Postal was a DOS-based game that was released in 1997 by a company called Running with Scissors. Let's check it out. The term going postal is American slang for becoming extremely violent and angry, with its roots going back to several killing sprees made by UPS postal workers in the late 80s to early 90s. In the game Postal, you are the postal dude, and your mission is to kill hostiles that are trying to kill you, up to the percentage indicated on the top menu. And that's it. There's no other plot really, except kill everything and move to the next level. The game was released as open source back in 2016, and the developer, Running with Scissors, expressed interest if someone was willing to port it to the Sega Dreamcast.
Well, I remember like a couple of years ago, you guys said you were going to release the Postal 1 source code, but only if someone promised to port it to the Dreamcast.
Yes, somebody, there's a lot of people out there that are working on Postal for fun for the fans, not so much to be a commercial for sale release, but just, freeware. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard from the Dreamcast guys in a while. Not too long ago, actually.
While it would be cool, and I hope to see that Dreamcast port one day, what's even cooler is releasing Postal to the Nintendo Switch. So here it is, my port of Postal. It's a top-down isometric shooter that utilizes the Switch's widescreen mode, and this is a twin-stick shooter, much like Smash TV or Robotron. So if you like that style of game, you'll love Postal. I tweeted Vince Desi, the CEO of Running with Scissors, letting him know that I released this port, and he was really excited about it. And I just wanted to say how awesome it is to see an indie developer like Running with Scissors get behind open source and homebrew for various different systems. And of course, links are in the description below if you want to download my port of Postal, as well as the open source that you can browse and make any type of revisions to their source code that you want to. So, in conclusion, the Nintendo Switch doesn't really need a virtual console. With everything I've shown you in this video and more things coming down the pipe, things are off to an amazing start and will only improve as we see more advanced emulation come to the system. And with more people getting on board as emulation porters and authors of homebrew, we're going to see, as mentioned in the last video, an explosion and a huge influx of homebrew and emulators that do come to the system. So stick around, it's going to be very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's next for the Nintendo Switch and the homebrew and emulation scene. Well, that will about do it for this video, guys. Once again, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts were. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.